Oh, Thor, Love and Thunder. What's there to really say about this film?
Fuck!
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way, but some people didn't think so and they really liked it. I, however, am not one of them. I thought that movie was hot garbage, floating at sea, covered in seagull shit that's just been baking for weeks. But regardless of how you feel about the film as a whole, yes, we know, there's one saving grace, and it's Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. If I were to point out one thing, out of many, about this film that really dragged it down, it would be the endless jokes. There are very few moments that really feel like they have weight to them, and there's not really any stakes in the film. But when on screen, Bale steals the show. Even when clearly doing something that Taika Waititi wanted to be funny, Bale twists it and makes it so truly unsettling. While I could go on about the shortcomings of the film, that's not why we're here. So as is tradition, let's turn Bale's scar-headed, god-killing, dental plan-needing Gore into a villain for your D&D campaign. I'm really excited for this since I really enjoyed the storyline with Gore in the comics. However, I'm not touching the comic book Gore. We gotta give the love to my man Senior Bale, so the build is gonna be based solely on the Love and Thunder incarnation. For the record, if we base this off the comic book version of Gore, we would be dealing with a character that punches planets out of existence from across galaxies. That kind of power is just too much for the tabletop. Bale's Gore is definitely more stripped down. Gore was born on an unnamed planet and was a devout follower of his god Rapu. His entire civilization was wiped out due to heat and a lack of food and water, finally leaving only Gore and his daughter named Love. Sadly, Gore's daughter dies, but as he's about to join her, he hears a call and follows the voice to an oasis in the middle of a desert where he comes face to face with his god Rapu. Realizing Rapu is just a pompous douchebag, Gore renounces him. Rapu, enraged, begins to choke Gore to death, but before dying, Gore is chosen by the Necro sword, and with it in hand, slays Rapu and then vows to end all other gods. Starting out, it's a real simple but effective backstory. The linchpin here is the Necro sword. Gore himself isn't really evil, the Necro sword corrupts its wielder. Gore's just a good old boy and he's got the big sad, that's really it. Upon gaining the sword, Gore goes on a rampage, killing every god he can in an attempt to find a way to eternity to wish for the death of all gods. As the wielder of the Necro sword, Gore gains superhuman strength, durability, speed, agility, and stamina, as well as a healing factor. Much like Thor and his weapons, Gore can call the Necro sword to him. With the Necro sword in hand, Gore can freely travel between the Shadow Realm. This allows him to melt in the shadows and reappear anywhere. Perfect for ambush attacks, which Gore excels at. Gore is also a masterful tactician and melee combatant. Not sure if he was this beforehand or if it's granted by the sword. I would put money that it is, since Gore himself without the sword is just as frail or weak as any normal human. The sword is what gives him his actual power. The Necro sword also allows Gore to summon shadow monsters and shadow weapons. This is bound to the action of slamming the sword into the ground. It doesn't appear to happen any other way. These creatures take pretty much any form and are meant to be nightmare fuel. They're not difficult to defeat on their own, being one shot by Thor and the other two bricks that he shares the screen with. Okay. Natalie Portman tries. Kinda. Tessa Thompson, on the other hand, she was born with two facial expressions, moody and angry. These creatures can also take the form of a living cage used for trapping his foes or kids. He mostly just traps kids though. Thing looks like it belongs in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Someone call Tim Burton, ASAP. The final ability Gore possesses is the ability to summon shadow tentacles. This is similar to the creature manifestation, but while the creatures are autonomous, the tentacles are completely under Gore's direct control. The tentacles are incredibly strong, able to hold down all three Asgardians, nearly killing them. Bet you didn't go to this movie thinking you were gonna see a little hentai, did you? You're sick and you need help because I know you enjoyed it. The last thing of note before we dive into the build is the Necro Sword's specific abilities. I know I said we're focusing just on the movie version of Gore here, but I just want to touch on the origin of the Necro Sword since it's not really explained in the movie. In the comics, the Necro Sword is actually the first symbiote created by Null. Whether they follow this in the MCU, I highly doubt, but it explains its symbiotic bond to the wielder. The sword also has the ability to reform itself if shattered, making it functionally immortal. I say functionally because Natalie Portman manages to trap it inside of Mjolnir and destroy the shards. I don't really know how that worked, but whatever. Movie climax, Taika Waititi, yeah. Thor Ragnarok was such a better film. With an understanding of Gore, his powers, and the Necro Sword, let's check out the build of the big bad.
How exciting.
Gore the God Butcher, a medium humanoid, chaotic, evil creature. Armor class 20, hit points 297, movement speed of 30. 25 strength, 24 dex, 19 con, 19 int, 17 wisdom, and 12 charisma. He has damage resistance to melee attacks and ranged attacks. He can speak common and primordial. I mean, there isn't really a language of the symbiotes, so he's a challenge rating 13. Gorr's traits are All Black, Regeneration, Shadow Aura, and Shadow Realm. All Black, which is the name of his Necro sword. Gorr's weapon, All Black, the Necro Sword, is a magical weapon and deals an additional 10 necrotic damage on top of all the base damage for each hit. All Black is bound to Gorr, so if the weapon is lost, it will return to him in 1d4 turns. Regeneration, Gorr regenerates 15 hit points at the start of his turn. Shadow Aura. Any creature within 30 feet of Gorr must make a DC 20 con save. On a failed save, the creature has disadvantage on all attacks against Gorr. If the saving throw is a success, the creature has immunity to Gorr's Shadow Aura effect. The Shadow Realm. The Shadow Realm is Gorr's lair. Within it, his Shadow Beasts deal an additional 10 or 2d6 plus 2 necrotic damage on their melee attacks. Likewise, in the Shadow Realm, Gorr's Tentacles deal 1d4 damage to all grappled creatures each turn. Gorr has a multi-attack where he can make 2 attacks with All Black. All Black, the Necro Sword's melee damage is 13 on hit or 1d12 plus 7 slashing damage. Gorr can do a Shadow Walk. Gorr melds into the shadows, teleporting to any unoccupied space within 40 feet. Before or after teleporting, Gorr can make 1 melee attack. Gorr can also choose to stay within the shadows for up to 2 turns. Gorr can summon Shadow Beasts, 3 per day. Gorr impales the ground at his feet, summoning 1d10 monsters to a space within 30 feet from him. Gorr has full command of each creature. The Shadow Beasts have 10 hit points and each have a claw attack. And last but not least, Shadow Tentacles, which he can also use 3 times a day. Gorr can summon a set of Shadow Tentacles with a reach of 10 feet, but they cannot move. Any creature within 10 feet must make a DC 20 dex saving throw or be grappled. Gorr functions as a late game boss. If you have bad saving throws, he becomes even more difficult. If you pull him into the Shadow Realm, he's even more difficult and can deal more damage. One thing that I intentionally left out was the ability to destroy the Necro Sword, which would functionally kill Gorr immediately. I believe that that's up to the DM's discretion because it's your story being told, so if you want an easier way that takes a little bit more dig-in, arcana, all kinds of searching, whatever you want your players to do to be able to defeat Gorr as opposed to just running guns blazing, that's your discretion. So have them shatter the blade or have them not shatter the blade. I don't care. It's your game. My D&D crew will literally spend an entire 4-hour session just planning. Like I said at the beginning, what is there to really say about the film? Yeah, that still stands. There are more faults that I can point out, and since this isn't really a movie review channel, I won't, because then it would be a 3-hour rage film. Tonka Truck Waititi took one of the best MCU characters with a great multi-film arc and just kind of tossed it away. But in turn, we did get Gorr. This film is a testament to Christian Bale's acting ability, and I'm not discrediting Hemsworth. He's a great actor with excellent comedic timing. The fault in this movie is the writing, not the acting. Well, Portman and Tessa, they're another story. Bale delivered an outstanding performance for how little he was on screen, making the moments that he was present the most memorable. I can complain about the film as a whole, but I can't complain about how Gorr was portrayed, and think his build was actually pretty cool. If you have any suggestions on who you'd like to see me build next, let me know in the comments. And if you like the content, give the video a like and subscribe. Anyway, that's all for now.